All right, so we're going to talk about some different strategies for going from an equation to a graph. All of these strategies can work on any equation you see for a linear for a line, but there are some advantages and disadvantages. Okay, so let's start with some strategies for when it's in slope-intercept form. Remember, slope-intercept form is y equals mx plus b, which we see here, m and b. Okay, so the first thing we need is a point. So the easiest point is the y-intercept, because we know the y-intercept is always where x equals 0, and that point's there, right? If we put 0 in for x, 3 would be our y value. Next thing we know is that the m is the slope, and if it's -6, that means it's -6 over 1, which is 6 down, 1 to the right. So we can count, right? 6 down and 1 to the right. And we know our next point is at 1, -3. Okay, then we have 2 points, we can make our line. Next strategy is a table, right? So we could plug in 0 for x. If we plug in 0 for x, that's going to make this term go away, and y is going to equal 3. So that's right there in our table. We need another point, obviously, so 1's always a good point to plug in, so we can do -6 times 1 plus 3, and that equals -6 plus 3, which equals -3. And we see that right there. So now we have 2 points, we can make our line. Okay? What if the equation looks like this, though? This is not something we're used to. If you're curious, it's actually called standard form, and we're going to talk about 3 strategies for this. The strategies you've already seen: plug in points, right? If we plug in 0 for x, that goes away, and y equals 5. We see that right there. If we plug in 1 for x, then we know this is 7, and we got to subtract 7 from both sides, and y equals -2. Sorry for the mess, I ran out of room, but you'll see what I mean. Right. The next strategy, and then we have 2 points, we can make a line. Okay. Next strategy would be plug in points. Plug in points to find the y and x intercept. So the y-intercept is where x equals 0. So if we plug in 0, we already know that y is 5. The x-intercept is where y equals 0, because y equals 0 along this line. All along this line, we know we're going to be crossing the x-axis. So we plug in 0 for y. I'm just now realizing I did those colors backwards, but you get the point. This goes away. We have 7x equals 5. We divide by 7 on both sides, and x is 5 over 7. So the downside here is that it doesn't give us an integer, but that's okay. We can see on the graph that when y is 0, x is almost at 1, 5/7. Okay. The last strategy is C, convert to slope-intercept. So all we need to do in this case is subtract 7x from both sides, and we have y equals -7x plus 5. We can do our slope and our y-intercept from there like we saw a minute ago. All right, that's all.